Hey everyone, today we're going to make some nachos, Dutch style, and for this we're going to loosely follow one of the recipes in the book Fiesta by Tanya Ducey. Now for this recipe we are going to need an onion, 2 cloves of garlic, olive oil, 1 can of diced tomatoes, 400 grams, 400 milliliters of chicken stock. You can make your own or you can just buy it pre-made. We are going to need some flour, cumin, oregano, cinnamon and chipotle powder. Aside from that we need some brown sugar, lemon juice, some peppers. You can use any peppers you like. We also need some salt and pepper of course. And we need some ground beef. I'm using 300 grams. And here we have some sliced vegetables, Mexican style, with corn, kidney beans, green beans, white cabbage and leek. So if you can't buy anything pre-made, you just have to find something that kind of looks like this. This is about 400 grams. This entire dish will be for 2 persons or 3 not so very hungry people. And some spring onions. Last thing we need of course is the nacho chips. 1 bag will do, which is 200 grams apparently. And that's all our ingredients. Alright, editing me here, I forgot some ingredients. You need about 250 grams of sour cream. And you also need 150 grams of grated cheddar cheese. And on the appliances side we need 1 saucepan, 1 fairly large skillet, a baking dish, can be glass, can be any other material, just make sure it's big enough, a whisk, obviously a knife to cut stuff, and a blender, which is way too big to fit in frame, so there you go. Let's start off with mixing all the spices. So you need 1.5 teaspoon of cumin, you need a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of chipotle chili powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano. You need about a teaspoon of brown sugar and just mix that together. Now our first step is to heat up the saucepan. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of oil, and I'm going to use sunflower oil, but you can also use olive oil. That will work just fine. Just going to let it heat it up for a second, and then we're going to add the onion. And we're going to press in the garlic just a little bit after the onions are a little bit baked. A little bit of heat. Now we need to get the onions a little bit softer because we are going to have to blend them. So we're just going to give them a little bit of time. And once the onions are ready, we'll add the garlic. And then we're going to put the entire thing into the blender, so make sure that's nearby. You're going to need the chicken stock as well, and the diced tomatoes. It's also a smart move to pre-weigh all the spices, because we're going to add those to the blending as well. So I have all of that ready. or prep it while the onions are baking. That's starting to look pretty good. So let's add the garlic. There we go. Be careful not to burn the garlic. Make sure you're on low heat, lots of stirring. That's good enough. Let's turn off the heat. And we are just going to transfer everything to the blender. Let's transfer the onion and the garlic to the blender. And any leftover oil can go in as well. That's fine. There we go. Let's get it on there. It's always a little bit of a puzzle. There we go. Now we are going to add our chicken stock. And I filtered out all the chicken bits. So it's just the liquid stock. There we go. And we're going to add the diced tomatoes. Be a little bit careful. We're getting some splatters, unfortunately. There we go. Let's get the lid on there. And let's just, noise warning. And you don't have to blend it super long. It's just a matter of making the onions a little smaller and getting everything mixed. That should be pretty good. And we're going to add the spices to the mix. And the pepper and salt we will add once we're cooking, so we can more properly measure it. There we go. And let's give that a spin as well. So everything is properly mixed, and now we can clean up our saucepan and move to the next phase. So for the next step in the process, we need to make a roux. Now I don't fully agree with the recipe in the book, so we're going to do it a little bit differently and it should turn out well. We're going to heat up some oil, once again sunflower oil, 3 tablespoons. And once it's a little bit hot, we're going to add some flour to it. Now I'm going to start out with 2 tablespoons of flour and we're going to work it up from there. The recipe says 1.5 tablespoons, but that is just not right. Usually roux is made with equal parts, so it's a little bit of an odd call. Just going to let it warm up a little bit. You're going to need your whisk. And if you don't have a fancy saucepan with smooth edges, this is going to be a little bit of a chore. But just try to get in all the edges as well to make sure you get a nice even mix. It's going a little bit warm, that's good. Now getting this even is always a little bit tricky. So we'll just have to see how things go. Low heat, don't overdo it. I'm just going to add in some of the flour. I'll whisk that first. It's very important to make sure it is smooth. There we go. And we add the rest. We might actually add a little bit more depending on how things go. And we do want it to brown a little bit, but it shouldn't burn. And I think I can get away with a little bit more, which is going to help us in the end, because it will make for a better bind. A little bit more. Starting to get a little bit too hot. And we want it to be a little bit thick by itself. So let's just add another half-ish, so this makes it about equal parts. And again, make sure to get all the edges. And if it really starts to boil, just take it off the gas, turn the gas off. Starting to look pretty good. So for the next step, we will add half of our blended mixture and we will stir it through, and then we will add the other half and the lemon juice. And lemon juice is 2 tablespoons. Can let it brown a little bit more. But you do have to keep a close eye on it. When adding the blended mixture, be a little bit careful because the saucepan is hot, so it might splash a little bit. And this is starting to look pretty good. Let's see if I can show you. It's still a fairly pale roux. That's totally fine for this sauce. Now we're going to add the mixture. Carefully add about half. There we go. Just whisk it through. Should bind pretty aggressively, as you can see. We're getting a pretty thick consistency already. That's good. So let's add the other half. There we go. We're going to let this slowly heat up. And once everything is properly mixed, we can move back to the spoon instead of the whisk. So this should be fine. Looks pretty smooth. Let's add lemon juice. Or rather the lime juice. Not the lemon juice, lime juice. 1, 2 tablespoons, and we can add more later on. Now we need to let this get to a boil and then let it softly boil for about 25 minutes. And then we can add some pepper and salt to taste. Now one more step, and this is a completely optional step as well. If you like it a little bit more spicy, and this is something I will do at this step, is you can add another pepper into the sauce and let it boil with the sauce and then take it out at the end. For this I will be using this small little bottle rocket pepper. They aren't too spicy, but it just adds a little bit of extra kick. So we're going to bring this to a boil and let it boil without a lid for about 20 to 25 minutes. Alright, so our sauce has been cooking for about 20 minutes now, and you will see it gets a lot redder and a lot thicker. That's good. This is also the point where I would say it's a good moment to test if everything is working out. So you can add some salt or pepper if need be. Actually doing pretty good. Just a smidgen of salt. Not too much. we're going to add a little bit of black pepper. In the meantime, we're heating up a skillet for our ground beef. Make sure it's nice and hot before you start cooking things if you're using stainless. If you're using non-stick, that's less of an issue, of course. I'm just going to set another timer for a sauce for another 5 minutes. I'm going to cut the audio so your Google devices don't get triggered.
5 minuten, de tijd start nu.
Well, let's hope I didn't forget to edit that out. And if not, you're going to have to deal with a timer now. That's slowly heating. That's good. Depending on how fast your oven is, you can preheat it to 107 degrees Celsius. However many Fahrenheit that is, it will show up on screen. Takes a little bit to heat. In the meantime, you can cut your pepper. You can use any pepper. We're using just the red chili pepper style peppers. You can also use habaneros or jalapenos, depending on your preference of heat. These will be added to the nacho dish. So it can really be anything you want. Also cut up some spring onions, 1 or 2, depending on how much you like spring onions. Should be plenty. There we go, nice and hot. So let's add some oil. Again, sunflower oil, just because it's my preferred type of oil. Add the ground beef. It's a little bit angry. That's okay. I think we're a little bit too hot. There she goes. I'm going to keep this seasoning rather simple, just some pepper and salt. And in the meantime, keep an eye on your sauce. And once our meat is all done, we can add some veggies, and that was the timer for our sauce, which is, I think, doing just fine. So we're now at 25 minutes. And I'm just going to let it sit for another 3-ish minutes. We're doing really well here. It should turn from a rather pale red to a nice deep red. There we go. Can add the veggies. And I like to make sure there are no large pieces of white cabbage. But this seems pretty good. We're just going to let this go until it's basically done. And that way the oven step will be mostly for the cheese, to make sure that's nice and molten. Alright, turning off the sauce. And now we have to look for that pepper we threw in. So let's see if we can find that. And there it is. Veggies starting to look pretty good. Which means we can move to the last phase, and that is making sure everything is properly assembled before it goes into the oven. Alright, time for the final assembly. We will add the veggies, the meat to our bottom layer. It's a really awkward angle to work. There we go. Level it out a little bit. Now we will add our sauce. Give it a little stir. Next step are our sliced peppers. Just kind of sprinkle them over top. You can also add them all the way on the top of the dish after serving, but we prefer it this way. There we go. Next step, we add the nachos. Ik hoop dat past. Zoiets.
Ja.
And then we top it off with our cheddar cheese. Try to get a nice even covering. There we go. Ready for the oven. We're going to stick it in for 6 minutes and we'll check it out to see how it's done. If the cheese is nice and melted, it should be all set. And there we go. That's our nachos, Dutch style. And you can serve this with some sour cream to finish it off. Bon appetit!
Echt een zo'n nat kwakje hoor.